Welcome, friends. I'm Lux and Mark. Things look a little different to you? Yeah, this isn't my usual channel. What you see here is the Vendetta Focus, what Nihilus and I are hoping to turn into a sort of irregularly scheduled place for long-form content, kind of like podcasts, interviews, that kind of thing. It's still real rough. We're still trying to figure stuff out, so bear with us for the moment. But at the beginning of February, we made this interview with Neon Black, and as you will likely be able to tell, we weren't ready at all. Really hadn't gotten things past the concepting phase, but Neon wasn't going to be around for very long. We were worried we wouldn't be able to get a hold of him by the time we were properly prepared and whatnot. So, thanks for being a champ, Neon. Thanks for putting up with the awkward night and then waiting for me to getting around to editing this video. Later down the line, we'll have to do you right. Without further ado, though, here's PewChat Die number 7. So,
welcome to Vendetta Focus. No, let me try that again. Welcome to Vendetta Focus, your irregularly scheduled podcast for all things Vendetta Online. Today in PewChat Die, we have our guest, Neon Black.
Yeah, I'm not doing sound editing. That's a whole different rabbit hole than video editing.
No, I don't expect you would be. We made some videos. I recently made some videos for YouTube, and I just realized in trying to make one video just how freaking much effort it takes.
I mean, it requires a certain way of thinking that doesn't really come naturally to anybody, I think. You have to put yourself in that mindset, and once you're there, it's one thing, but getting to that point is pretty difficult. That being said, given that we would be interviewing you, I did go back and look at the only piece of content I think you've ever made for VO, which was, what was it? You unlisted it, so I had to scroll up in Discord, but it was called How to Play Vendetta Online with Neon Black, or something along those lines. You were in some kind of house in the woods. You had a generator outside. You had a mask on, and I don't know where the mask came from. It should be recognizable, and I didn't. And you were running around doing all this and that. It was...
Yes, that was when I was living out in the woods. I was on that hill by myself for a little bit too long. So
that one, it was fun. Let's see. You've done quite a number of things as far as I know. But the ones I can name off of my head are sometime after that you were you a cabbage picker?
a cabbage picker.
I don't know what it's called.
I picked some cabbage in my day. I don't know exactly when you're talking about, but I have worked for a couple organic farms out in California. I lived in a yurt out there working for one farm for a couple months, and then I got fired for being a terrible office manager. Apparently, I'm better at picking cabbage than working on a computer, so that didn't last for very long. Grew a different kind of cabbage when I was making when I made that other video when I was living out in the woods. I spent a good 6 months working for one of our national forests in California, doing trail surveying and data collection for the Mendocino National Forest, and basically just got paid to hike 300 miles of trails with the GPS and just collect data on user impact and that kind of stuff, invasive species, and mark areas of trail that needed, some attention from trail crews and things like that. Yeah, actually, when I first started playing VO was I was living abroad in Thailand. This was like in 2011, and I was over there teaching English. I lived there for like a year, and while I was there, I lived in a small, I guess not a small town in terms of Thai standards, but I lived in a small city in central province in Thailand, and I was like one of two people in this city that spoke English. So I had to find like an online community, a game or something that I could play that where I could actually like interact with people who spoke English, because I was starting to lose my mind. But that's how I got it. Vendetta. I actually bought this like knockoff brand notebook at a mall in Thailand, and a like knockoff brand Logitech joystick, and went all out, like just being like, oh, this game's pretty cool. I'm gonna have a flight stick and fly spaceships. I've always looked for games that were, decent flight simulator combat kind of games, and nothing ever really hit the itch for me until I found VO, and it was like, wow, this game's like, it's a little clunky and it's a little old and it doesn't look the greatest, but holy crap, is the combat in this game fun.
You said 2011 for that? Or about when?
Yeah, I think it was 2010 or 2011 when I started playing.
Shoot, was that right around when the Kickstarter happened? No, that was 2013, wasn't it?
Yeah, I actually joined just before capital ships were introduced as manufacturable ships in the game. And back then, there was when that all came around, there was a lot going on. I mean, the conquerable stations had just been introduced, and there was a lot of dynamics in the game in terms of like ongoing wars, and there was a lot more piracy. And that was when FAMI had the spotter bots in at all three entrances to gray space, and La Familia was like this. I guess they're Family Galactic Travel now, but FAMI was a big presence in the game back then. And as a matter of fact, it was YT 1300, I think, was the first person to kill me, first player to blow up my ship. And I had ventured out into gray space in like a Revenant MK1 or something like that, and got blown up by him. And I shook my fist at the sky and I said, "Curse you, God! I will find you, YT 1300, and I will annihilate you." And
how long did it take to get your revenge?
Well, I ended up joining FAMI just after that. I was like, I was like, I want to be a pirate. YT is my hero. And so Savet Hagar, who I think is still commander now, but it was...
No, YT's commander. Savet is basically, he pops into the relay every couple months, I guess, at this point. Makes some crass jokes and then disappears again, so... That's about as much of Savet as we see these days.
I was tracking YT down and trying to learn how to kill him, which took a while. Savet had just joined FAMI, and I had ran into him and was like, "Oh, you're a part of that group. I'm going to kill you too." And he ended up kind of taking me under his wing and showing me a few tricks to level up and find good weapons. He actually told me how to farm law enforcement blasters. And I was like, "Oh, you guys are pretty cool." He's like, "Yeah, this group's pretty fun. You should join." And I talked to Football Prophet, who was commander at the time, and he brought me on board. And this was my character's back then was called Hippopotamus Hustler. I was an Atani pilot. And I unlocked the Valkyrie X1 and learned to fight from Football Prophet and Nahan Lore and Estrian Process, and kind of came up in the PvP game in Sedina B8. And shortly after that, Tridents were introduced as manufacturable ships, and myself and another member of FAMI at the time, TheRedSpy, decided we would break ties from our pirate ways and start a manufacturing guild, which we called Trident Capital Manufacturing Group, and which is now known as Trident Arms Syndicate many, many years later. We started off as pretty much the only competition to TGFT at the time. nobody else could hold a stick to their flame, so to speak. But we started building capship parts and selling them to the community, and eventually I built the capship, and well, the rest is history.
I mean, have you really ever had competition other than TGFT being your competition? Our competition. They don't really interact with other pilots. Did that not used to be the case?
Definitely, they were pretty much the go-to. I mean, there was like a Conflict Diamond of Ore, I believe, was another person selling parts back then. But at the time that Tridents were introduced to the game, like there were a lot of people vying for control of the stations and trying to build them for their friends. And I know people were in TGFT were selling parts and helping people build Tridents, but they didn't. I mean, they kind of already had the market cornered. There wasn't really a market for it. It was just like either you were friends with TGFT or you were somebody like One or Fami, just taking the stations when you could get it and putting in work slowly on your own Tridents. Whereas Trident Capital Manufacturing Group, we kind of approached it from a diplomatic stance, and we would pay Fami if they own the stations, or we would keep good relations with TGFT if they own the stations, and we would, try to walk that thin line of, not having everybody in the whole universe pissed off at you enough to let you use the stations to build cap ships, and then just stocked up on parts and built pretty good like manufacturing runs for hauling all the stuff, and streamlined it a bit and ended up just turning it into a money-making venture.
Certainly a lesson some of our current pilots could take to heart. All right. Hey, Nihilist, sorry. Welcome back.
So yeah, I caught the tail end of that, but yeah, tries. I don't know if you went into detail on the actual Tri origin story, but
no, I actually didn't go into that. Although you might have to refresh my memory. I know we have it written down somewhere, and I know there's a pretty funny story around it, but I don't.
Yeah.
I should know this.
I'd say actually what I'm talking about is not the origin story of the original Trident Manufacturing Group, but the origin story of Trident Arms Syndicate. So I guess you hadn't gotten there yet. So I guess that's actually a good place to enter this story. So yeah, I think the way that I'm told, you had kind of built yourself up, over time as to be, a prominent member of the Trident Manufacturing Group Guild. But I think a pilot named, I want to say TheRedSpy.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the seizing of the throne. So I was a founding member along with Prim, who isn't around, doesn't play anymore. A lot of these people don't play anymore. TheRedSpy and myself, Prim, TheRedSpy and myself came up with the idea and started the group. And, I don't remember really who else was involved because none of them really stuck around for very long. We were a small group from the beginning, and, here and there people came and left. But at the time we had a pretty good group. Everybody was manufacturers. Not all of us were PvPers. I mean, me and TheRedSpy liked fighting. And came from Fami, so we were pretty well versed in combat. And okay, well, the lore of what happened is, and I'm going to make a distinction here because
let's just stick with the lore. That's the juice.
Well, what happened was one day, and I'd have to go through and reread the write-up that I did like 5 years ago about what happened, because I'm sure there's specifics that I'm missing. But
I'm pretty sure I have the actual chat log somewhere. Somebody had sent that to me one time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it was TheRedSpy that actually sent it to me.
Yeah, it's on the forum. Fami was trying to take a station from probably like TGFT or something like that. And TheRedSpy, who is currently commander of Trident Group, decided it would be a good idea to help Fami take the station. And we had already come up with this, neutrality principle that we aren't going to get involved with other people's political drama. And TheRedSpy was feeling frisky that day and decided that, fuck it, we're going to just join Fami and be like the pirate manufacturer group, and we're going to take what we want. And myself and the rest of the council who were online at the time had a public conversation with him on Channel 100 about, hey, do that. And he was getting all mouthy about it. And so we voted him out of his commander spot and kicked him from the guild. And then they appointed me as commander. And I seized control of Trident Capital Manufacturing Group at that point. And TheRedSpy went on to join Fami again, or maybe that's how he joined Fami. I'm pretty sure we met in Fami, but I could be wrong about that. And then he went and started his espionage alt and started Red and became more of an aggressive pilot in the game and less of a I'm going to help out noobs and build cap ships. And I took up the mantle of commander of Tri. And I remember that there was some colorful conversation around that whole day. But
yeah, we'll find the you were right. It's in the Vendetta forums. We'll find the thread and post it with this video.
It was pretty comical. I remember it being very sit down and eat popcorn and watch what's going on in 100 kind of moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Not the kind of thing we do nowadays, I'm guessing.
This was much more flavor, This popcorn this popcorn had some salt on it,
It was a pretty glorious moment, and it was very entertaining for the community at least. And at the end of the day, we ended up moving forward, solidifying that kind of neutral stance and making that a cornerstone for how we kind of run things and try. And since then, I mean, our guild has had a hand in making so many freaking Tridents. It's unbelievable. And I mean, I've probably had a hand in the manufacture of probably more than 200 Tridents. I'm not even exaggerating there.
Yeah, and the distinction that I'd like to make is, I don't think that I don't really know TGFT's business. I'm friends with all those guys, but we don't really discuss what their business history is. So it's like, as far as I'm aware of, though, I don't think there's another guild in the game that has contributed to as many capital ships that were built outside of our guild as us. And I don't think anyone even comes close. The only people who would possibly come close would be TGFT. But again, I think most of the
everything's in-house with them.
Yeah. I think most of the capital ships they build are for TGFT members. So, do they rival us on how many Tridents that we were that we contributed to building? Maybe, but a much more significant portion of their builds have been for TGFT Tridents. I don't think there's another guild that really comes close to how many Tridents outside of our guild we've helped build. So
and we had a time where if you joined Tri and you showed that you had some drive and some like capacity for actually being enough to be in charge of manufacturing and stuff, that we would build you a Trident. Like, we had a point there where like every person in Tri had a Trident who was any sort of pilot that deserved one.
Yeah, the thing with that is, I think what kind of led us away from that path was, it's like how much effort you put into building someone a Trident, and then they just stop playing the game. that gets disheartening after a while. And it's like, you think that, those kind of builds should like cascade into making building that much easier. But when all of them are kind of disappearing or, just staying docked, it makes that whole strategy less effective. So it's like,
there where we only had very few people in the group, and it was because of that. Like, we just wanted people who were dedicated to really pumping out production that we would even consider for the group. But once you were in, it was like, okay, time for you to be flying a capital ship.
Yeah.
Kind of how Zeha got started, I'm guessing.
Yep, I definitely helped him make Trident. That's for sure.
I will say Zeha, we helped him at the tail end, but he was pretty dead. That guy was dead set on doing most of the work himself, and he was just hauling an XC.
Even nowadays.
Yeah, he was he's always been one of those pilots where he's like, nope, I want to figure this out for myself, which is definitely admirable. Not a quality you find in pilots very often.
Alrighty, Neon.
Well, I hope you guys got enough sound clips for you. I'm gonna head out here, but let me know if there's any touch up or anything to do. We can meet up maybe next weekend or something like that.
Yeah, I think we got plenty.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you guys.
Good fights and good insights into the magical mind of Neon Black. Thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Anytime. But you guys enjoy.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have you back on as a guest in the future. So
cool. Take it easy, guys. Good.
All right, dude. See you.
Cheers.